UFC 300 has come and gone. It was everything you expected and even more. The main card was stacked and had epic fights such as Arman Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira. Max Holloway took on Justin Gaethje for the BMF title, and the main bout, which was Alex Pereira versus Jamahal Hill. It also featured some good fights on the prelims and the early prelims. Those fights included Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez and former men's bantamweight champion Davison Figueiredo, who ended up subbing Cody Garbrandt in the second round in the early prelims. The preliminary card included former women's bantamweight champ Holly Holm falling to Kayla Harrison, Jiri Prochazka knocking out Alexander Rakic in the second round. The fight was epic, and at first it was seen as possibly a win for Rakic, who looked like he was going to KO Prochazka in the very first round. But with Prochazka being a veteran and former champion in his weight class, he had to go out swinging, and that is exactly what he did. He ended up knocking out Rakic in the second round and now has possibly another chance to fight for the light heavyweight title. Prochazka now has 30 wins and only 4 losses with 1 no contest. According to the UFC, he could possibly fight Alex Pereira in his next bout. But now on to the news that happened during UFC 300. They announced the next 2 to 3 epic fight cards for UFC 301 and 302. They also announced the main bout for UFC 303, which you might remember one of those fighters. The UFC announced the bouts for 301. The main card will feature flyweight champion Alexandre Pantoja, looking to defend his title and take on 10th-ranked Steve Erceg. For the co-main event, it will be 13th-ranked Jonathan Martinez fighting former champion Jose Aldo. Martinez has been hot lately and has won 6 straight fights. He wants to keep that going, but will take on a former champion and future UFC Hall of Famer Jose Aldo. Aldo is 4-4 in his last 8 bouts and has not fought since 2022. His last win came in 2021 when he defeated Rob Font. For the other matchups, you have middleweights Michel Pereira versus Mahmoud Muradov. Light heavyweights Anthony Smith versus Vitor Petrino. Middleweights, Paul Craig versus Caio Borralho started off the main card for UFC 301. UFC 301 will be on May 4th in Brazil. The main card will start at 10 p.m. EST on ESPN+. This will, of course, be a pay-per-view event. The UFC also announced the matchup's date and time for 302. UFC 302 will be on June 1st in New Jersey. It will begin at 10 p.m. Eastern. It will also be a pay-per-view event. UFC 302 will feature the lightweight belt on the line, which is arguably the most exciting division in the UFC. The main bout will have Islam Makhachev taking on Dustin Poirier. Poirier will get another chance to fight for the title. The last time that Poirier fought for the title was back in 2019 when he fell to Khabib Nurmagomedov in the 3rd round via submission. On the other side, you have a young fighter that has turned into a MMA superstar. With Nurmagomedov being his trainer, he has excelled and will now look to defend his belt for a second time. Makhachev has wins over big names such as Alexander Volkanovski, Charles Oliveira, Dan Hooker, and others. According to the early betting lines provided by FanDuel, Makhachev is the favorite at -500, while Poirier is the underdog at +340. The rest of the card looks like this. The co-main event will feature top-ranked middleweight contender Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. The other bouts will be middleweight Anthony Hernandez versus Roman Dolidze, the heavyweight bout between Jailton Almeida versus Alexander Romanov, and the main card will begin with a women's bantamweight bout between Aylin Perez versus Jocelyn Edwards. UFC 300 was everything fans wanted and even more. The card was first seen as disappointing, but all the fights did not disappoint. The card started off with undefeated Bo Nickal, who was taking on Cody Brundage. Nickal has not lost a fight professionally and was hoping to keep it going. His opponent was Cody Brundage before the fight was 10, and Nickal was the favorite, and for good reason. He did not really have a problem with Brundage and made quick work of him. The first round was entertaining, but at the end of the day, we knew who the better fighter was. In the second round, Nickal attempted to submit Brundage, and he did just that. The 29-year-old tried to escape, but could not, and ended up tapping. Since entering the UFC, Nickel is 3-0 with wins coming over Cody Brundage, Val Woodburn, and Jamie Pickett. For the next matchup, which was also very entertaining, it was former lightweight champion Charles Oliveira versus #1 contender Arman Tsarukyan. The fight was back and forth. Despite being a former champion, Oliveira was the underdog. The fight was epic and one of the better bouts of the night. Tsarukyan took round 1, while Oliveira won round 2. Round 3 was the X factor, and both seemed to make a case for winning the round. Oliveira seemed like within the last minute or so that he would be the winner after he dominated in the closing round. But because Tsarukyan had the better stats, he reigned supreme and won by split decision. Tsarukyan is now the top challenger for the lightweight division and will likely face the winner of Makhachev versus Pereira for the belt. The next fight, which was the BMF title, was between Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. Holloway went up in weight to fight Gaethje. The winner was declared the BMF title, which Gaethje held. It was easily the fight of the night, if the entire year so far. Both fighters went toe-to-toe the entire 5-round bout. Before the final round, Holloway was winning according to the experts because he threw and landed more strikes. And also Gaethje was taking a lot more damage than Holloway. But at the end of round 5 is what everyone was talking about. In the closing seconds, both fighters were going at it, even Holloway, despite him not needing to go as hard because he essentially had already won the fight according to the experts. Both at the final moment and in the closing seconds, Holloway ended the fight with a buzzer-beater knockout. With literally 1 second left, Holloway put Gaethje to bed with a knockout. After the fight, Blessed was declared the BMF title holder and also called out the champion in the featherweight division, Ilia Topuria, who just recently knocked out Alexander Volkanovski. Holloway will likely get that chance to try to be the next featherweight champ in the UFC. The co-main bout was between strawweight champion Weili Jang and second-ranked contender Xiaan. This fight went the distance and was worth the watch. The fight started off big for the champion, who looked like she was going to get the win via submission. However, at the end of round 2, somehow Xiaan held strong and was saved by the bell. In rounds 4 and 5, Xiaan had a fierce comeback and tried for the submission herself. However, that was not the case, and Jang showed why she is the champion. She was declared the winner by unanimous decision. According to stats, Jang won the fight 49-45 and remains on top of the strawweight division. Now the main bout for the entire card. It was between the challenger and former heavyweight champion challenger Jamahal Hill and current champion of the division, Alex Pereira. Pereira was the favorite. Before the fight, he was looking to defend his title for the first time after his victory over Prochazka back in November. The fight was expected to be a good one. The last time we had seen Hill was back in January of 2023 when he upset Glover Teixeira. However, after he tore his Achilles, he was sidelined for an entire year, which caused him to have to forfeit his title. The fight got off to a rocky start when Hill had an accidental punch to the you-know-where, which caused the fight to stop for a moment. But Pereira waved it off. He then went for the kill. After just moments in which Hill had an accidental kick, Poatan ended the night with a knockout in the first round in less than 2 minutes. Pereira showed us why he is the champion and will be hard to beat whoever wants to take on Poatan. And last but not least, the notorious Conor McGregor is back.
Surprise, surprise, motherfucker! The king is back! I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the f he wants!
It was announced that McGregor will return to the octagon for the first time in 3 years and will fight 7th-ranked Michael Chandler on June 29th at UFC 303. McGregor hasn't fought since July of 2021 when he lost to Dustin Poirier. He lost via knockout, but the reason for the knockout was because he broke his leg. Since that time, McGregor has not fought and has been acting as of late. He was a coach in The Ultimate Fighter versus Michael Chandler just a few months ago. Since his loss to Khabib, his last win came in January of 2020 when he knocked out Cowboy Cerrone in less than 1 minute. He has won 3 since 2018 with losses to Nurmagomedov and Poirier twice. His last win came in January of 2020. McGregor has been hinting as of late that he would return to the octagon, and even said after his movie Roadhouse that he wanted to fight 8 more times in the next year. He also wants another chance to get the belt in a lightweight division. However, he will likely have to fight a few more times before he gets that chance again. This is going to be a massive pay-per-view. Even though they only have one fight scheduled at the moment, it will likely be a big one since at one time McGregor was the biggest draw in UFC and the entire sport of MMA. After the Michael Chandler fight, there is also a chance that McGregor could fight Nate Diaz for a 3rd time, which would be the trilogy. Fans have been wanting to see that for a very long time as Diaz won the first bout, but McGregor won the second. Whatever happens, it is official that McGregor is back and will fight Michael Chandler at UFC 303.